Howdy y'all, Sean here. Welcome back to Unicycling 101. Today I will be teaching you how to ride one-footed. I hope you find this helpful. One-foot riding is an essential skill, whatever you do. Whether it be trail riding, or muni, or trials, or freestyle, or flatland, learning to ride one-footed will drastically improve your control. As far as prerequisites, there aren't really any besides just being able to ride forward. Some people learn this really fast, some people take a bit longer. I'd say if it feels too challenging, then you could try learning a few more skills first, like backwards and or idling. But what I would really recommend is that you be practicing at least a few skills concurrently. So if you can't do those essential skills such as backwards and idling, I recommend you learn those at the same time as one-foot riding so that you're improving your control in multiple ways at once. Here's how one-foot riding works. You're going to apply more pressure to the pedal on the way down and less pressure to the pedal on the way up. To get started, I recommend you just practice riding normally, putting less pressure on one pedal. Really try to get the feel for riding one-footed here. Your opposite foot should be sitting on the pedal, but you should be trying to apply as little pressure as possible to the pedal from that foot. Once you get comfortable with that, you really just gotta go for it. That's all there is to it. Apply the same technique you did when you were riding with 2 feet on the pedal, applying less pressure on one pedal. Once you can get 1 rev, this is encouraging. When you get 2 revs, that's when you know for sure this is starting to work. If you can get 2 revs, then you know that this is something that you can eventually get solid. I recommend you start by putting your opposite foot on the frame. This is how I learned it. I definitely recommend learning it this way because it is significantly easier to start with than riding with your leg extended. Another thing you may try, and this is how I learned it, is when I would take my foot off the pedal, I would hold the frame, sorry, not the frame, I would hold the seat with my hand. This is not necessary, but if you find this helpful, whether it be it helps you balance or gives you some mental benefit, then I'd recommend going for it. So from here, just keep repping it out, trying to get as many revs as you can. Don't worry about returning your foot to the pedal just yet. That should come naturally. If you can do this reliably for several revs, then you should be able to return your foot to the pedal pretty easily. I said several revs, but really you should be going for runs of 50 to 100 revs. That may seem like a lot, but I feel like that's about what it's going to take for you to feel reasonably comfortable with. Because if you can do 50 to 100 revs, you're not far off from being able to do this indefinitely. If this feels like an unreasonably high standard, just remember that one-foot riding is a foundational skill. If you want to learn harder freestyle skills, you're going to need this locked in solid. As you get comfortable doing fairly long runs, start practicing turns. Being able to turn both ways is essential for having control. And of course, as this gets better, practice going in a circle both ways, and then practice going in a figure 8. As your control improves with riding with your opposite foot on the frame, start practicing it leg extended. To learn it leg extended, just go for it. You already know how to ride one-footed. The only difference here is that your weight is going to be higher because you have, instead of putting weight in the frame, all of that weight is now going to be going in the seat. If you can already ride one-footed with your foot on the frame, then I expect riding with leg extended is something you could get fairly quick. And of course, repeat the same process as before. Practice circling both ways, practice going in a figure 8. Alright, so you're comfortable turning. Now, practice it with your hands behind back. If you feel like you need to practice foot on frame with your hands behind back, then go for it. If you feel ready to just work on foot extended with hands behind back, then feel free to skip practicing it with foot on frame and go straight for that. If you have trouble with it, you can always try with your foot on the frame with your hands behind your back again. And you know the drill. Practice with your hands behind your back, going in circles, figure 8s, practicing narrower circles, narrower figure 8s, practicing those tight turns. That's what will get your control really good. Just know that improving your control is something you build up over time. So after you learn to ride one-footed, start learning new tricks, start learning harder tricks. Don't wait until you have hands behind your back going in a figure 8 solid, because that's going to take a while. No, you work on the next tricks, the harder tricks, while continuing to practice one-foot riding with your hands behind your back going in a figure 8. And also know that having a solid base and being able to ride one foot extended with your hands behind your back is going to make it easier to learn these harder skills. So you'll be practicing multiple skills at once. You'll be learning new skills while getting better at the skills you can already do. Regarding the turns with hands behind back training, I do not recommend spending a long time on it per session. Just spend a few minutes per session. Try to go in a figure eight. If that's too hard, then try circling both ways. When you feel ready to go for the figure eight, if you don't complete it, then just pick up where you fell and complete the rest of the figure eight. Remember, this takes time. Eventually, you will get to a point to where you can do a figure eight with your hands behind your back, first try, pretty much every single time. It'll just become second nature to you. But don't feel like you need to rush it. Don't spend a lot of time on it. Just spend a few minutes and then move on to the next trick. And honestly, a few minutes even is generous. Like, I would recommend spending even less time on it than that. Oh, and also, definitely learn this on your other side. Since you already have it on one side, it should be pretty easy to get it on your other side. It should go even quicker this time. If you are still having trouble with this, then I recommend learning a few other tricks. For example, 1 foot idling may get you comfortable with the idea of only having 1 foot on the pedal, or you could try seat in front, which teaches you a lot about controlling your weight on the pedals. Then, when you come back to this should hopefully feel a lot easier. Remember, these are not prerequisites. These are just skills that I recommend you try if you're still having trouble with it. Or, even better, what I would recommend is that you learn these skills at once. So you work on 1 foot riding, 1 foot idling, and seat in front all concurrently. My point to all this is that your mileage will vary. Different people learn different skills at different rates. That's why I recommend working on multiple skills at once. Now, be resilient. You will get it eventually. But you may find that you have an affinity for another trick. You may find that something else comes easier. So keep working hard at whatever your goal trick is you're working on, but don't be afraid to try new stuff as well. Before I wrap up, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that is going into 1 foot riding from 1 foot idling. In order to do that, just 1 foot idle until you feel comfortable riding off. So make sure that your foot is in front, and then apply extra pressure on it, ease up on the pressure on the way down, apply the technique that you learned from 1 foot riding, and you should be able to get into it. The transition should be pretty straightforward. You could also do it with leg extended. It is a bit harder leg extended, especially if you have short cranks, but it is doable. And I know I forgot to talk about returning your foot to the pedal earlier. This should also be fairly straightforward. If you have any questions about it, then just leave them in the comments. That's a wrap on this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. If I missed anything, then just leave it in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more tutorials. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one.